Welcome to DraftKings Daily Trot Podcast. I'm your host today, pinch hitting for at Big Italy 42. He was a little under the weather. And I'm your host at BChat50. I'm joined by Scott Malwig, who you can follow on Twitter at sports_25 to life. And we're going to discuss a jam-packed Wednesday night slate of DraftKings games. And we got some money-making picks for you today. And we're going to start off, as we always do, with the most important position that you're going to find in fantasy, and that's the pitchers. Who you like tonight, Scott?
I'm pretty high on a few guys tonight, actually. I mean, there's a lot to like today on the slate as far as pitching. I know last night we were looking at, you and I had talked a little bit, and we narrowed it down to like 3 or 4 guys we really liked yesterday. And there's a lot more diversity today. It feels like a lot more guys priced around where you want them. And one guy I'm looking at pretty heavily right now is McHugh against Oakland. I really like his price on DraftKings, 7,700. That's probably my top play right now. What about you?
He's my top GPP pick. I wrote about him today for the website. That'll go up a little later this afternoon. I think he blends the winning betting line. We've got the high strikeout potential. There aren't a ton of guys that can strike out a bunch of batters on tonight's slate.
Yeah.
So I like McHugh's strikeout upside, and pretty low betting total in that game. I like the fact that the Houston Astros have a number of power hitting right-handed batters to back him for some run support against lefty Drew Pomeranz. So he's my top pick as well. Another guy that I really like is Brandon Morrow at San Diego. Checked his Brooks baseball player card this morning. Pitch FX data looks very good. Velocity's there. Really like that he was coaxing a ton of ground balls in his first start. So the underlying numbers are there. He's healthy. And lowest betting total of the night. So I really like Morrow tonight as well.
Yeah, I like Morrow too. I played him last Friday in the Daily Fantasy Accuracy Challenge on FanDuel, and he looked really good. I mean, he's been a guy I've always really liked when he's healthy, and he looks healthy right now. So I'm excited about that. Pitching in that nice pitcher's ballpark in San Diego. Really hard to argue with. Another GPP guy I like a little bit is Edison Volquez on the road against Minnesota, who's really been struggling offensively. He's 6,200. I mean, that's a really solid price. There are a lot of guys in that range, though. That's kind of the range I was talking about, right around 6K on DraftKings, where there's quite a few guys to like from Morrow on down right through Pomeranz at 6,100. There's a lot of guys in there that you can feel pretty good about.
Yeah, I'll give you one more name from that price range, a little bit pricier. I like Brett Anderson of the Dodgers. Fastball looked pretty good in terms of velocity, just over 90. He's a sinker guy, so you're not looking for him to blow hitters away anyways. And that sinker was inducing ground balls like it should in the first start. Was messier than the other names that we've listed in his first start of the season, but was overall solid, did what he's supposed to do, induced ground balls, avoided walks. And the thing that I like best about him is he neutralizes, I wouldn't say neutralizes, but he takes a bite out of 2 of the bigger bats in that lineup, Kyle Seager and Robinson Cano. Both of them are substantially better against right-handed pitchers than lefties. So I really like getting some shares of Anderson. $6,700 is a pretty good price point for him.
Yeah, that's a great point with both Seager and Cano being left-handed. That makes him a really strong play tonight, especially at that price. There should be a little lineup diversity tonight as far as pitchers. I know last night everyone was really heavy on Harvey, and then there was a lot of Carrasco and Arrieta out there. And tonight I think we're going to see a lot more like 15 to 20% draft percentages on DraftKings, which will be nice.
Definitely. I'm in complete agreement. So let's move on to catcher here. Who's your top play at catcher tonight?
There's no one I'm really loving at catcher tonight. I'm probably going to end up playing Posey like I usually do, honestly.
Same.
I feel good about him. He's been producing fairly well. I mean, he's been 0 for 4 in 2 of the last 3 games he started. I think he just pinch hit last night. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Had a long fly out. I love his matchup tonight. He gets a lefty, which is obviously favorable. But he gets a lefty who also struggles badly with righties, and I cover that pretty well in today's GPP Chin Music. But Tyler Madsick struggled with righties in the minors, struggled with righties in his limited time last year in the bigs, and you've got to always love Posey's lineup slot. There aren't a ton of catchers who hit in the heart of their order, and Posey hits cleanup for the Giants. So a lot of things to like. Ballpark factor isn't one of them, but the rest looks pretty favorable. I got one GPP play that if I'm going to be veering off of Posey. It's going to be to Brian McCann probably. Bud Norris struggles mightily with left-handed hitters. Great ballpark factors at Camden Yards for home runs. So if you're looking to hit the proverbial home run in GPP games, Brian McCann's a pretty decent bet if you're going to go that route. But otherwise, probably going to own quite a few shares of Posey.
Yeah, I don't mind going back to Gaddis. I mean, he's going to break out eventually here at some point. He's been looking a little bit better at the plate over the last 3 games. So he's going to be really low owned because he hasn't really done much yet this season. He's priced exactly the same as Posey. I think he's a pretty interesting GPP play also.
I agree that the low ownership is paired with that big power and the potential for multiple home runs. That's the sort of thing that you're looking for in GPPs, and some differentiation from the other lineups, and he can certainly provide that. So those are the 3 names that I really think are the most worthwhile using at catcher tonight as well.
That's 2 of mine also.
Let's move on to first base. Where I really like Lucas Duda again tonight. His price point is exceptionally cheap. He's buried at $3,500. He gets Jerome Williams at home. We saw the Citi Field dimension changes pay off for that laser shot from Daniel Murphy last night. Probably would have been a wall banger in Citi Field last year. Cleared the fence last night. Duda hasn't really gotten to fully take advantage of that yet, but already played slightly favorably for home runs according to Stat Corner for left-handed batters in its first few years of existence. And now we get the fences in right center and center field moved in a little bit. Expect that to help bump that park factor a little bit. And the showdown with Jerome Williams is a real draw for me. Duda has top shelf power, really emerged last year as a breakout hitter. And sweet lineup spot hitting third. I don't like all the injuries on the Mets last night, but as far as chasing power, Duda seems like a pretty good bet for very cheap.
Yeah, especially at that $3,500 price. I mean, it's really hard to argue against him. There's really nothing I can argue about with that play. He's probably going to be the highest owned first baseman today, I would imagine, because of that price. Most of the guys I like are a lot more expensive than that, which is probably why I'm going to have them relegated to GPP plays. I really like Rizzo tonight, but I really don't want to pay $1,600 more than Duda for him is the problem.
Well, that's the beauty, as you said, the low ownership and the fact that he gets Jason Marquis. Marquis is he's literally been the worst pitcher in baseball against left-handed batters since 2012. So you absolutely have to get some shares of Rizzo in GPPs. Bite the bullet on the price difference and maybe save someplace else. As we noted, great price points on pitchers tonight. So you're going to have some extra cash to spend elsewhere. And Rizzo's a pretty good investment, I think, if you're going heavy on GPPs tonight. Chris Carter's another name that I like. Gets a lefty, Drew Pomeranz at home, Minute Maid Park, great for enhancing home runs. And another guy that struggled early, could see low ownership percentage as a result of that. And dropped to 6th in the lineup last night, but with a lefty on the hill, I'd expect him to move back up into the top 5 in the lineup tonight. I'm not sure where exactly that'll be, but if you get some people sleeping on him tonight, maybe not paying attention to the lineups when they come out, then Chris Carter is going to be a pretty nifty GPP play.
Yeah, I agree there also. I mean, there's going to be a lot of good GPP plays with what I'm expecting Duda's ownership to be. So I think there's a lot of ways you can swerve a little bit at first base, but for cash games, I'm probably just locking Duda in.
Definitely. Moving on to second base, and we'll go back to Houston for me. Jose Altuve looks like the highest upside play as well as probably the safest play. Best second baseman, discounting Devin Travis's first 7 qualifying plate appearances. Yeah. Altuve ranks highest in WRC plus against left-handed pitching since 2012. Doesn't have top shelf power that you usually look for in GPPs. Makes a ton of contact, so he's got that high floor in cash games. But does make up for the lack of power to some extent with his elite base stealing. So if he gets on base, he does have a chance to steal some bases. Is facing a lefty, so it's always a little bit more difficult to get a base on them with them staring at you at first base. But really like Altuve tonight. He's probably my top play. Ian Kinsler also hits lefties hard, but I don't like the ballpark factors in Pittsburgh, so not as enamored with him. Who else are you liking at second base tonight?
Second base is really weak tonight for how many games there are. It's rough. So I'm looking at a couple more value guys more than anything. Solarte is a guy that I've been playing a lot of. He bumped up a little bit to 3,200 today on DraftKings, but I feel like you can still feel pretty good about him at that price. There's one other guy right around that price range that I was looking at. Let's see. Oh, I was looking at Panic a little bit, but I don't really love the lefty-lefty matchup. I'd prefer to go Solarte. I'd feel a little bit better about that. But Panic at 3,100 is a guy that I'm okay with, but probably not targeting heavily.
Yeah, I'll give one more cheaper name as well. I like $3,500 Ricky Weeks leading off for the Mariners against the lefty tonight. If you're not using Anderson, I think he makes for a pretty good play. Power really is above average at the position for him, and he's away from Safeco. He's going to get a slight home run boost playing in Los Angeles at Dodger Stadium tonight. And one thing that I like that I think is easy to overlook, as a platoon player, he's not going to get steady playing time, but this is going to be a second start in a row for him. So he did get some at-bats last night, going to get some more consistent at-bats again tonight with back-to-back lefty assignments for the Mariners. So I like Weeks a little bit at $3,500.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's something that you don't notice a lot with platoon players, that when they're getting consistent at-bats, it's so much easier to get a good feel for your hitting and stuff like that, and just seeing the ball, because when you're not seeing at-bats every day, you can get kind of in a little bit of a funk there when you're only playing once a week or something like that. So the back-to-back starts is really nice.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the hot corner. And once again, I'm all over Evan Longoria. I'm sure a lot of people will be. He gets a lefty on the hill tonight. And he's at the Rogers Center, which is absolutely wonderful for hitters. Boosts runs scored, boosts doubles, triples, and boosts home runs to right-handed batters. So all the park factors working in Longoria's favor. Big ISO against left-handed pitchers in his career and since 2012. So I'm looking pretty heavily at Evan Longoria. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, he's been a guy that I've been playing a lot of. He's going to break out in a big way at some point. Obviously, against left-hander Burley, that's a great play. One other guy I'm looking at is Chris Davis. He's a little expensive, but I like the third base eligibility tonight against Evaldi. He's another guy that's been struggling a little bit. He's probably more of a GPP play because at $200 more than Longoria, it's really hard to justify his risk-reward there when Longoria has been a pretty solid cash game play with probably just as much upside. Another guy I like for cash games is Matt Carpenter at 4,300 against Peralta. I mean, Carpenter's just a rock-solid cash game play basically anytime the matchup is halfway decent. So you have to feel pretty good about him at 4,300 there.
I agree. Great on-base skills, huge line drive rate, and Willie Peralta not particularly good against left-handed batters. So getting the leadoff hitter from the Cardinals looks pretty good to me. And speaking to Davis, getting another guy who has a platoon issue, and that's Nathan Eovaldi, struggles with left-handed batters. So I like both of those plays as well, and that's pretty much where I'm looking at third base as well tonight. What do we got at shortstop tonight, Scott?
There's a couple guys I like at shortstop. I mentioned Panic already. He's like my dirt cheap value option. I'm looking at Reyes again against Tampa Bay and Ramirez. I think he's going to break out at some point. I don't love the price there. That's my biggest concern with him. Same issue with Billy Hamilton. I think the stolen bases are going to come. I like his shortstop eligibility on DraftKings. I'm not really sure why he has it, but I'm not going to argue with it as long as I can keep playing him there. So I'm looking at speed a lot at shortstop today. Is there anybody that you're really loving at the plate?
I'm going to go against the grain, especially in GPPs, and I think he's going to be under-owned because he's got a righty on the road, but I'm going to spend $5,400 on Troy Tulowitzki. Okay. Does hammer right-handed pitching, doesn't have the ballpark factors working in his favor, so I think that's going to drive his ownership down. But Tim Lincecum struggles mightily with right-handed pitching. Now that he just doesn't have the extra oomph on that fastball, I know he ranks in the top 15 in WOBA allowed to right-handed batters since 2012. So surprising matchup in terms of effectiveness. Usually you don't get that with a righty-righty matchup, but Tulo is going to get that. Hits in the heart of his lineup. And again, this really comes back to being able to save on pitching. And if you're somebody who's rostering Lucas Duda at first base, you're also going to be saving there. So you're going to have a little bit of extra money to spend. And I think that shortstop's a good position to get an edge because there really aren't a lot of hitters that I love at the position. I'm with you on Reyes. Rasmo Ramirez is a favorable matchup that he should be licking his chops over. And again, Rogers Center. Gotta love the Rogers Center for hitters. So I'm actually probably going to spend a bit at shortstop tonight because I like some value plays elsewhere. If you're not, and then Jed Lowry is another interesting name. He moved up to third last night in the order for Houston. If he slots there again tonight, that's a really favorable lineup slot for a guy that's priced at $4,000 and playing at Minute Maid Park. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on Houston's lineup card tonight because that'll have some impact as to whether I'm using Lowry or not.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I also definitely agree with you on Tulo. I mean, people tend to shy away from him a lot on the road, but you have a guy who, just hitting talent-wise, often laps the field. And, I mean, Reyes and Hamilton are priced so close to him anyway when he's on the road that it's almost hard to justify taking anyone unless – I mean, you're basically hoping for stolen bases with both of those guys, where with Tulo, I mean, he could go 3 for 4 easily in this game. And at 5,400, I mean, you could be 10 points ahead of everyone else at shortstop if those guys don't steal a base. And like you said, that's a nice place to get an advantage.
Definitely. And the deepest position is where we're going to wrap things up, and that's the outfield. And I'll let you lead off. Who do you like in the outfield tonight?
There's actually quite a few guys I like in the outfield tonight. It's going to be a really, really diverse day. I played Stanton last night. I love playing him while he's hot. He looked great. I mean, there's just really nowhere you can argue with him. One guy that I think has gotten off to a rough start that I actually like quite a bit tonight is Adam Eaton. He was great against right-handed pitching last year. I think he's going to break out at some point. I really like his talent. I'm going to keep going back to him, especially in GPPs, until I get that game that I'm looking for out of him.
Good on base skills and decent matchup tonight. I'll go with another leadoff hitter that I like, and that's Jacoby Ellsbury. Doesn't have top shelf power, but it's going to get the most out of it playing at Camden Yards. Another favorable ballpark for left-handed power. Also run scoring boost there from the park factors. But I like the fact that he also brings some speed to the table and that he gets Bud Norris. I really want to get some shares of lefties facing Bud Norris tonight. And I think the fact that he doesn't have that top shelf power that people usually look for in GPPs might leave him a little bit under-owned. George Springer, another righty at Minute Maid Park. He's that high risk, high reward, boomer bust type of pick. Looking a little bit beyond them, I like Chris Carter, who's also outfield eligible.
Yep.
And getting even deeper, I like Curtis Granderson once again tonight against Jerome Williams. I want some left-handed batter exposure to Williams. Low total there, so Vegas isn't exactly projecting a high scoring output. But as a leadoff hitter, he's going to get the maximum number of at-bats tonight, which is always a plus. And he's only priced at $4,100, so that's not exactly a terrible price point.
Yeah, definitely. Another guy that I like his price point a little bit is Gerardo Parra if he's in the lineup against Lynn. I don't really like playing guys against Lynn, but he's been a little bit more susceptible to left-handers. Parra's been great against righties. I like him a little bit. I think he's got a nice price. Justin Upton is another guy that I think is an interesting play, but probably more of a GPP play than a cash game play for me.
Yeah, definitely chasing power if you go with Upton. I don't think that's necessarily a bad move at all. And I'll throw one more power name out there from the Baltimore game, and that's my boy Travis Snyder. I've been banging the drum for him in season-long leagues and in DFS as well. Gets Eovaldi's struggles with left-handed batters. And, again, another left-handed power hitter who's hitting at Camden Yards. So if you're looking for a guy who could reach a decent bet to me, last year, according to Baseball Heat Maps, he ranked 9th in average fly ball and home run batted ball distance. So the raw power is definitely there. And he's in a ballpark that you really don't even need top shelf power to reach the seats. And I want another piece of Eovaldi if I can get it. And $4,100, not a bad price for him. He has been relegated to the 5th hitter since the promotion of Chris Davis to 3rd in the order, but that's still in the top 5. That's okay. Behind a couple guys who can get on base, so I do like Snyder a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Another guy I actually like on the Rockies after we were talking about Tulowitzki is Charlie Blackmon's only 3,800 today. Has that lefty-righty matchup against Lincecum. I think he's a really solid play at that price. I'm a pretty big believer in him at this point. I think he's a really, really strong play.
Yeah, you got to love the $3,800 lead up, especially for a leadoff hitter in a lineup that, yes, it's much better at Coors Field, but they get Tim Lincecum tonight, and we know that Timmy can be a little bit erratic, whether that's walking batters or just leaving pitches fat in the zone, and he can't do that with basically a fastball that's barely cracking 90 at these days. And Blackmon has the type of speed that fits AT&T Park well if he gaps one, doubles, triples, and good hitters behind him to drive him in. So I like that Blackmon play at $3,800.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we got a ton of options, like we mentioned, that we just went over in the outfield. It should be a really diverse day, which is going to make it really fun in both cash games and GPPs today, which is always nice because it can get a little frustrating when you're playing Matt Harvey and he's 75% owned in cash games.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to a fun night tonight on DraftKings, and I wish you luck, and I wish all of you listeners luck. I think we gave you some great picks to help you win some money tonight. I'm certainly looking forward to doing just that. So that's going to wrap it up for today's DraftKings Daily Trot podcast. Good luck and win big.